Hello and welcome to Geeks Unleashed. This is episode 233. I'm Jasmine. You may notice a large presence is absent for today. It is Mark's 16-year wedding anniversary, so I am taking over the reins tonight. I will be your host, and I am joined by an actual Geeks Unleashed alum. Her name is Karen, and let's meet her.
Hello.
Welcome. Karen used to be part of Geeks Unleashed back when it was a website where we were like a geek news website. And Karen's big piece was The Walking Dead. She was the queen of our Walking Dead section on the website, which is like one of the most popular features at the time.
It was. I think I also did a little writing. I did the very tail end of Breaking Bad. Final half season of Breaking Bad, but Walking Dead was my jam.
I love it.
Did the kids still say that? Tell me, what episode is this again, Jasmine? What episode are we on?
233.
Get out of here. That is incredible. Well, I'd like to also note that Jasmine and I have been corresponding for years and chatting and keeping in touch. And I feel like we've been friends for a really long time. And we did the math a little while ago. And we think that we've known each other at least 12 years, but I'm going to go with 14. I think it's possible. Yeah. It's been quite a long time. So
it has been a while. The internet is an amazing place. Like, truly. How is it that you have friends that you've been friends with for like decade at least, and you have literally never seen each other face to face?
Well, today we break all those boundaries down, and we're going to do it. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, I'm so happy that you're here. But before we get started, for everyone watching on YouTube, thank you so much. We appreciate that. But also, please remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel, and leave us a comment. You let us know. We are talking spycraft in this episode. We're talking about Enemy of the State. We're talking about Minority Report. Let us know where you stand. How do these films hold up to you? Do you think that they were ahead of their time? Do you think that they were complete BS? Like, leave us a comment. Let us know. Get in on that conversation. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, we appreciate that as well. We'd also love it if you would leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Podchaser. Okay, all of the pleasantry bits are out of the way. So
yeah, yes,
I'm so excited to kind of take over, like kick the boys out. It's girls' night. We get to talk about some really entertaining things.
Yeah.
But before we do that, we do have a segment on Geeks Unleashed where we talk about our Geek of the Week. And it's basically just something that we have done that we are excited about that has usually nothing to do with the films. I think Karen's might be a little bit related this week, but I'm going to let you go ahead and go first. So why don't you tell us what your Geek of the Week is?
Yes. Okay. So we're going to talk about spycraft, and that's going to be a lot of fun. But one of the themes that I love exploring in my like TV watching and my films, and right now a book series that I'm super into is time travel, which is just endlessly fascinating. You know, once you kind of get out of the, Groundhog Day rom-com thing, it's just the consideration of time and the one immutable fact that, we all live in this like linear time that we can't control, and we're all kind of swimming in the same stream. It's fascinating to read a book. The series that I am currently reading is by a Danish author. This is what it looks like. And it's a 7-volume series. They're really small books, so you can really knock them out in a couple of days. The author's name is Solveig Baye, and the name of this series is On the Calculation of Time. And it is so interesting. It's about a woman named Tara who wakes up on the 18th of November and has a normal day. She's traveling for work in Paris, and she goes to bed, and she wakes up the next day, and it is the same day. And she is stuck in time, and she's like fallen out of time, and she can't figure out what has happened, if she's the only one, what the rules of this strange new place that she's existing in, where the world is stuck and everyone experiences this, it appears that the same day is happening over and over again. And she starts to notice things like some things that she would buy on one of these many 18th of November, she would go back to the same store her next experience of this repeating day. And sometimes it would be gone as if she consumed it and it's no longer there, like something from the grocery store. And other things remain with her. And she can't, so she's in this weird place where she's trying to figure out the why of it. I don't know that we will get to the why, but I'm currently on book 2. There are, as I mentioned, there's 7 books in this series, but the 4th book was just translated into English, and they're all available like at, Amazon, Powell's Books, bookshop.org, and they're really great reads. So it's just got me thinking about time travel, and my favorite TV show that really delves into time travel was Dark on Netflix. Don't know if you ever saw
That sounds
Dark, the
vaguely
German
familiar.
series.
I've not watched it, but it sounds familiar.
It's a 3-season German series that is like mind-blowing, and it really at its core is about time and what time does to us, whether we're in it or traveling back, and the ramifications and the ripple effects of experiencing time travel. So this is one of my favorite shows of all time. So clearly I have a thing for time travel, but that's my geek of the week.
I
on
love
the
that.
calculation of volume.
I love that. So actually, I have been watching a lot of, don't judge, but like alien TV shows. Like after we got all of that stuff that has come out with all of these government officials that have made it official. So I've been watching a whole bunch, and I just watched one episode that talked about time travel, funny enough. And this was not originally going to be my geek of the week, but like now I don't remember the episode. I've been watching so many, I don't remember which one this was, but they were talking about time slips and how there are certain places on the planet where more people have reported occurrences of getting lost in time. And how like those photos that you see where it's like that guy's wearing a t-shirt when it's like 1910 and there were no t-shirts in 1910. Like what is happening here?
What is happening?
It was just really interesting because I had never heard of, outside of fiction, I had never actually heard of a time slip occurrence.
Yeah.
And so it was fascinating. It was just like, what would you do? Like if you were because it reminded me of that when you said that she kind of goes to the store and then things are not what they seem. But like there was one story about this woman, I want to say it was at some town in the UK where she was walking down a very like populous street with shops. She walked in, but she noticed immediately that everyone was dressed differently than she was dressed. And she said the name of the shop when she got out to meet her husband again. And he was like, there was one of those stores here, but it was like 100 years ago. Like it was not recently. Like it has. And it was just really, really fascinating. I was like, what would I do? Like if I were walking down the street and then I turned around and everybody is wearing like 1920s garb, like.
Yep. And that's the big question. That's the humanity of, at the core of all of these explorations, whether it's a book or a TV show, is like, what would you do? Would you change the trajectory of time, or could you do that? And this book series that I'm reading right now it's about this one person and the choices that she makes when she finds herself permanently in this like kind of time slip where she can't get back. And it's about loneliness and all of the human condition. And she spends like the first 200 repeat days with her husband, but every day she has to wake up and explain the whole thing to him from scratch because he loses that day. And eventually she just can't do it anymore and she leaves. She has to. She just can't. It's driving her mad. And it is really fascinating to think about how you would handle it, either a moment like that where you have this experience and then you're back to your normal time, or if it was a permanent thing, would you go in search of other people who are having the same experience? I think I would, but and I got you all off your topic, your Geek of the Week topic, but it is kind of extraordinary to think,
It is fascinating. I'm going to stick with it as my Geek of the Week topic.
All right.
There was also another episode I watched where, and to tie it into the episode we're covering today, where it's like they were talking about the Nazis and how they were so like into occult stuff
They
and
were.
how they actually like were searching out for those kinds of things. And it's just like, I feel like I don't know where to draw the line here. Like you're,
Yeah.
you're talking about things that we have touched on in science fiction, but you're telling me that these were actual experiments that they were doing. And then it like some of the stuff, it was like, this is the exact same plot of Stranger Things. Like you
Yeah.
are using children to time jump, essentially. Like it
Mm-hmm.
blew my mind. I was like, how is this stuff real? And I really feel like it's credited to when, you know, the agency started releasing all of this UFO information,
Mm-hmm.
everybody else was like, oh, well, if we can tell them that aliens are real, then let's just put everything out there. And I'm like, I don't think my brain is ready for everything to be out.
No, I don't think we're ready for that. What is the name of the TV show that you're watching?
One of them that I have been watching is Ancient Aliens, and another one that I
Ooh.
had been watching was it was something Disclosures. Not
Is
Disclosure
it
Day. I know that's a film, but like there was another
Mhm.
something about Disclosures. I had been watching that one on Prime.
Well, Disclosure Day is the name of the new Spielberg film, which is about an alien existence on Earth that has been kept, it's kind of the same beats that
Yeah.
you would expect from Spielberg. The aliens look exactly the same, spoiler, as they did in E.T., but whatever. Yeah, and it's about the day that Earth learns that aliens are here and they're real and we've been experimenting on them.
Yeah.
Sorry, spoiler. I just spoiled a movie, but it's Spielberg.
Everybody
It's
knows that we spoil everything on this podcast, so it's
all
okay.
right. Spoiler alert. Permanent spoiler alert. But what streamer are you watching your shows on? Your
Oh,
Alien.
it's between Netflix and Prime. Those are the two
Okay.
that I have that I
Yeah.
spend the most time on. Where it's
Yeah.
like, because I take breaks. I work from home, so I take breaks to like eat. And while I'm eating, I'm like, I need a 45-minute show to just like have something on while I'm eating because it forces me to get up and get away from my computer. Um,
Yes.
so that is like put on an alien conspiracy show, and I'm like, sold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, well that's super fun. Time travel. That is, it's always been a fascinating thing. And I think it's fascinating because there's never really a boring answer to what would you do if it happened to you. Right? And I feel
Yeah.
like everybody gets to participate in
Yeah.
that conversation. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's fun to play the what if. What
Yeah.
if? I always
Well,
like,
this is why we love science fiction. This is why we love, yeah, this is why we love to suspend disbelief for 2 hours or for the duration of a really great TV show. Is that for those of us for whom this is, irresistible, it's not for everybody, it is that act of like the what if and how fun that is, even going back to like the days of Battlestar Galactica. I mean, the reboot in 2004 to 2008, one of my favorite sci-fi shows of all time. It Some of the themes of that, which is AI uh, related, and these human like beings that have created themselves,
mhm.
and those are all things that have been, we've been talking about that since the Terminator in
Yes.
1980 or 1982 or whatever year that came out. I think it was 1982, which I think now I've seen that almost 40 times. It's like one of my
Yep.
favorite movies, the
Oh my
original
God, yes. It's
Terminator.
one of my favorite. The later films are terrible, but like it's still one of my favorite franchises. And I feel like
Such a
we don't
great
listen.
idea.
Like we
Yeah,
we we have all of the data and we
it's
have all of this information and nobody is listening. They're like, we're gonna do exactly
I
what they
know,
did with Terminator.
I know, and it's like all of
Right.
those great original sci-fi ideas,
Mm-hmm.
um, from the Terminator and Battlestar Galactica. It's this idea of like, what does it mean to be human, and what if there is a replica of humanity? And
Right.
it's been explored in so many shows, like Humans on, which I think is a BBC show,
Oh yeah.
did a great job. They did a great job of looking at that. But going way back to the original exploration of those ideas, it never gets old because humanity never gets old. Like
Right.
what makes us human is something that, if we are thinking people, we spend a lot of time thinking about that. And so what if, and now this explosion of AI right here where I am in San Francisco, or right
Mm-hmm.
outside of San Francisco, and I work in San Francisco. I see it everywhere. It is so it is like this kind of like thing that's enveloping everyone's brains, at least in my part of the world.
Yeah.
it's on everyone's mind. We're all trying to get our heads around it. It's the ramifications for AI, and it's like these things are becoming possible. The speculative fiction is no longer speculative. It is a reality, or it's becoming a reality. It's really fascinating to see this in real time, and also like, I don't know, a little scary.
I think it's like I'm kind of split, and I know people are like AI is bad, and I'm like, yeah, but like not all of it, and it doesn't have to be like, sure,
Yeah.
wasting all of that energy on stupid videos, like I think that's kind of a waste. But like being able to use it to correlate information, to organize things, to reduce the time that it takes you to do a thing, like I think that there's so many great ways that it is useful, but I definitely am like, there's a line. Like to be able to use, for example, like if I could use AI the way that Tony Stark uses Jarvis, like Jarvis does all of the work and Tony just talks to him and you know, Jarvis does it. It's like, yeah, that'd be great. Like if it could be like, hey, what's on my calendar for this day? And it like talks about kind of
I think his name is Claude. I think his name is Claude. I don't know. That's what I hear. I don't know. I have a little experience with Claude. It's a little creepy, but yeah, it's like the world, and that's why it's so much fun to like go back to some of these films from the 90s and the early 2000s and see what the storytelling is like around these themes. It's so interesting, and how they write these characters and what their message is in the end, and how that storytelling has it changed? Is it changing because of the nature of the technology and the reality that's changing for all of us? And how do we tell those stories now? Right. And how did they tell those stories then? So I'm excited to talk about some of that today.
We are definitely going to get into it. So before we do that, though, let's just get the rundown of these films, a little bit of background. So we got a double feature tonight. We're going to be doing this a little different. We're not necessarily going to be saying whether or not we loved so-and-so character or things like that. We're just going to have a conversation about what these films imply and how they apply to 2026. So we've got Enemy of the State. And the IMDb summary, Mark's favorite, is a lawyer becomes targeted by a corrupt politician and his NSA goons when he accidentally receives a key evidence to a politically motivated crime. Okay. I feel like you have left a lot out of that description.
Yes, there's a lot left out of that. Yes, so maybe the word surveillance would have been like appropriate.
Yes,
but okay, all right, IMDb.
So it's a start IMDb. That one gets like a C+ on a grading scale. Yes. So directed by Tony Scott, written by David Marconi, and it stars our big three guys. We got Will Smith, Gene Hackman, Jon Voight,
and about 1,000 other like very
other
well-known
people
actors.
Who, like you know very well at this point.
Yeah. Yes, it's crazy. Yeah.
Release date was November 20th, 1998. So we had a holiday release, believe it or not. But also there is an argument to make that this could be a Christmas film because Christmas decorations are apparent throughout the entire feature of the film. In fact, the Christmas present is one whole plot in the film.
It's true.
Runtime 132 minutes. It had a budget of only $90 million, but back in '98, that's pretty high. $90 million budget, and it pulled in about $251 million in the box office.
Yeah. Wow.
So not too shabby. Not too
bad. No, it was a banger when it came out.
I feel like it made a lot. It stayed relevant because of its rewatchability.
Yes.
That was one of the films that I bought it on VHS at the time, and then I also bought it on DVD when DVDs became available. Good God, am I really that old where I was buying VHS first?
You and me both, sister. Yep.
Yep. And then we have Minority Report, and our IMDb summary for Minority Report is the chief of a police unit that can accurately predict and prevent crimes goes on the run after he is accused of a future murder himself. That one's better.
Yep.
All right, this one, directed by Steven Spielberg, written by Scott Frank, John Cohen, and Philip K. Dick, and it stars Tom Cruise, Colin Farrell, and Samantha Morton. This one was a bit later. June 21st, 2002 is that release date for Minority Report. 145 minutes. That one is lengthy. Budget, $102 million. So still fairly low for a Tom Cruise feature. Yeah. And this one pulled in almost $360 million in the box office. So feel like that one did a little bit better. It was a little bit more of a blockbuster thing, but I mean, how could it not be when you've got Spielberg and Cruise attached to the same film,
Correct.
right?
Correct. Yeah. And also really rewatchable, because I must have watched myself. I've rewatched Minority Report at least 5 times over the
Oh,
years. Yeah, probably more.
And they even had a TV show. I think it was 2
They
seasons on
did.
Fox. Yeah.
They did. It was bad. It was bad. Yeah. Sorry.
They
Sorry,
can't all
TV
be
show.
winners.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, the first thing I kind of want to just jump right into is like we talked earlier, even just the difference between like science fiction, science fact. At what point in these films, I think on the rewatch in '98 and 2002, it might not have been as prevalent, but like
Yeah.
on the rewatch of these films, what was the moment that you realized that they stopped being science fiction?
Well, I just finished rewatching Enemy of the State today. I've started it yesterday. And the entirety of that film has happened. None of it is fiction anymore. Not really. And some of it is kind of sweetly old-fashioned, because 1998 it's been almost 20 years, of course, but is that right? Or is that 30? I don't know.
Almost 30.
I'm not good at my maths. I'm sorry. Yeah, there was at no point in that was it did it feel like the future, which is kind of wild, because at the time I remember just this idea of a surveillance state in the United States using satellite technology was just so far-fetched. We just couldn't believe that could be, that could be accomplished. Well, what about for you, Jasmin, as you were watching it?
There is one line that has stuck with me since the very first time that I watched that movie, and it was from Regina King, who plays Will Smith's wife, and she's listening to the TV as it's talking about this bill. There's a surveillance bill that they're talking about the entire movie about running more surveillance on American citizens.
Yep.
And they're talking about, oh, but we have fail safes and we're going to have monitors. And then she goes, well, who's going to monitor the monitors of the monitors? Yep. And that is something I come back to all the time. And honestly, I feel like because this movie came out so like at the very least, it was like late into my formative years. I was just getting into high school around this point. Social media was not really a thing. Like we had Instant Messenger and that kind of, and chat rooms and that kind of stuff. But like seeing this movie before I hit that phase, it made me so paranoid. And I remember that so much of what I did online when I was that young was very much like, I never give anybody my real name. I would always lie about my location. Like I was just so paranoid about what other people would do with the information that I just created all kinds of different like online personalities back then, because I was like, I don't want people to know that it's me. Of course, like the people with the power, they know everything already, but like I just like some dude on the street, like I didn't want him to know, right?
That's right. So
I remember this film had a really, really big impact on my digital footprint when I was that age.
Yeah. And it sounds like your personal sense of privacy too. Like you were thinking and you were already considering, what's private, what's exposed, how do I protect my privacy? Do I want the real me to be out there? And that probably was in the years before people, well, it was in the pre-Instagram years, but in the years before people were creating essentially like, fake accounts that were their public accounts, and then their private accounts where they're like the real them was, revealed.
Yeah.
That's really 1998 I was not in high school in 1998, but that was just prior to the explosion of Facebook, because I remember Facebook really in the early 2000s. I can't remember what year it started, when that just blurred and eliminated all privacy, and their privacy controls are so, even to this day, are notoriously weak. And it's just
intentionally weak.
Intentionally weak. I mean, I can still use my mom's old email to get into her Facebook and do whatever I want just by clicking through an email. There's no login or anything, so it's very porous. But there was a line in Enemy of the State that I also noted, when I love the scene when Gene Hackman, and can I just say again, the people that are in this movie, like so it's like Hackman, Well, Will Smith is, the star. Regina King, she looks like she's about 20. She's almost unrecognizable to today's the Regina King queen that we know. Hackman Voight, Gabriel Byrne is in it. Lisa Bonet, a very young Seth Green, pre-Buffy. I was
Jack
looking
Black
at
when he
him.
was doing serious
Jack
films.
Black. Yes, Jack Black before anybody really knew him. And this is before all these people blew up. Anna Gunn, who was in Breaking Bad. I mean, it's bonkers. They're so, plus a whole raft of like sort of mid-level
Oh yeah.
actors
I
like
was
Scott
obsessed with
Kahn.
Barry Pepper when I was younger.
Barry Pepper's the best. He's a
Yeah,
great bad guy. He's like one
yeah.
of the best bad guys. I mean, to this day, he's just got such a great face. All these great character actors. But Hackman brings Will Smith to his little lair in that, old abandoned building, right? And I also thought it was really interesting because I think in 2026, there's not a movie that you could find anywhere that portrays an older man as a tech genius. That
Right.
just is not the world that we live in. And I thought that was, I noted that. I was like, here's, Hackman's this like ex-NSA guy. He's been on the lam and he's been hiding for 20 years or 18 years. And he knows everything. He is so far ahead of everyone. His tech expertise is like off the charts. So I thought that was interesting because I just don't see that portrayed anywhere, TV or film today. But he did say something. He was like going through this rapid sort of like trying to bring Will Smith up to speed. And Will Smith's character is fun, but he's kind of like always behind for, 2/3 of the film, like trying to catch up. What's happening? What is this? Who are you? Well, I don't understand. And Hackman says, we've got 100 spy satellites looking down on us right now. So I stopped it and I went and I looked online, and I think maybe AI told me the answer. But in 2026, it's estimated that 400 or more spy satellites, specifically spy satellites that are military use, are orbiting Earth. So 4-time increase since that movie was made, right? I know, it's just like the whole world has completely changed. But
Yeah.
but anyway, so that I thought was a sea change in the volume of technology, the surveillance capabilities, the sophistication of the spy networks that are in play. The countries that have spy satellites has
Yep.
changed over the years, over the decades. So it was way ahead of its time. Even so, I mean, it was pinpointing all of the hot spots that we're living with today in
Yeah.
those early years. So it was really interesting.
Yeah, I find it fascinating. Like, if you think about watching this movie for the first time in '98 and then watching
Yeah.
this movie now,
Mm-hmm.
back then, my thought process was, I love this movie because it's like so many of these other movies. Like, it was very reminiscent of like old school spy films. And to me, it sort of,
Mm-hmm.
Bond had gotten to a place where at that time, it was like stuck in just modernizing the 60s versions of the film. It wasn't until we got Daniel Craig in the reboot that the whole franchise kind of leveled up.
Yeah.
So it was just very much like, oh, so this is like a new take on spies. Like, what if the spies weren't actual individual? Like, what if it was a whole government? Right? Like, what if it was a group of people? Right? So back then it was like, oh, this is cool and it's so actiony. And Tony Scott was my favorite director of all time.
Really?
So I think it's a big loss to not have him around anymore. But like, I love Tony Scott, so anytime he had anything out, I was pretty sure I was gonna love it. But like, I felt like at the time it was very, very much a film of its time. But when I watch it in 2026, I feel like I'm watching a different movie than I watched in '98, because now I feel like I'm watching, oh, this is like documenting the past. Like, before it was like, oh, this is so cool, they're finally moving this stuff into the future, because it was before Jason Bourne and all of those other films too. It was just like, right before we got this big leap into what spycraft could actually be.
That's right.
And now it's like, I feel like it's a historical document. Like, it just feels like if you take some of the action sequences out, this could be something you see on the History Channel, right? Like, remember that time that senator was murdered, and here's the plot that unfolded behind it. It was very disconcerting, I would say, to watch it now, because it's like, we were chatting about this before we started recording, but no one guesses about whether or not their stuff is being watched or recorded or whatever. It's like, we know. right? Like
Yeah.
we make jokes with our friends now where it's like, let me just say something out loud so then my phone will start sending me stuff so that like I don't have to work as hard to
Yeah.
look for it. Like we
Yeah.
all know that we're monitored at this point, and like
Our spy boxes, like Alexa, we call Alexa the spy box, and really our phones are spy boxes, as you mentioned, because you can say, I'd really love to buy a wood-fired pizza oven. And it's so weird that ads for wood-fired pizza ovens start to come up on your Instagram and your Facebook and it's just like, come on. And they all deny that they're listening, but they're listening.
they're
Yeah,
listening. Of
we
course
know.
yeah.
We know. And I think that too, that culture has really shifted in the years since Enemy of the State, and younger generations of people. I've got two 20 somethings myself, and I know a lot of their friends. And I think that they grew up almost in a surveillance state. The presumption is, no, nothing's private, so why try to lock it down anyway? And I think that when they were a little bit younger, they're just privacy wasn't even a discussion. Parents were concerned about privacy and kids were not, because they had just, that was how they came up in the world when they were young, and social media, came into their world, and smartphones. My kids were young kids, phoneless young kids, and then the smartphone came in. It went 2008. And then they didn't get them right away, but they had, those little Motorola razors. Remember those?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those were so cool. And or at least we thought so at the time. And so I see that like like young millennials and the Gen Z attitudes toward privacy are really so different from our generation. They just have grown up being, surveilled. They just assume that everybody knows everything. So why
Yeah.
lock it down? Why bother,
Oh, I'm still like, there's still a part of me that holds on to a little bit of like, anytime something asks me for my birthday, I'm gonna
Yep.
lie,
Yeah.
because like that feels super personal. Like
Yes.
with the, and I say this because one time when I was traveling, I lost my wallet, and
Mm.
in order to get back on my flight home, I get pulled aside at security. They got to call some identity verification service or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and like from that point on, those questions specifically that they asked me to verify that I was who the ticket said that I was, like I was like, anytime anybody else asks me those questions, I'm gonna lie my ass off. Like I'm just gonna lie
And
because
do you need to know my birthday so I can buy some socks? Really?
exactly. Like
I know.
I signed up for a gym and they were like, "Oh, when's your birthday?" I was like, "Why do you need my birthday? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you just need
Yeah.
to make sure that the credit card number that I gave you is valid. Like you
Yeah.
don't need my birthday." So I lie about all of that. So because it's just like you have my name, you have like banking information where that's needed. It's like, why did you need the
Yes.
birthday as well? Next thing you know, they're gonna start asking for blood type, or it's just like, where do we draw
Yeah.
the line?
Where do
And
we
so
draw the
that's
line?
my
Yeah.
way of fighting back. It's like I lie
Yeah.
about my birthday all the time
Yeah.
because like my ID still says my real birthday. So that when I'm
Yeah.
flying, I don't lie because I don't want to be on the no fly list. But like
That'd
outside
be
of
good,
that,
Jasmin. Yeah.
no, you
Yeah.
don't need to know that information.
Yeah. And I think that, when we, you know, pop culture and the movies and the films that we watch and the books that we read just reflect these big existential questions back at us, because the nature of the questions is changing as time goes on, and each generation that kind of like comes of age as time goes on has a different, they react differently to the world that we're living in. Their experience is different. I mean, I know that my growing up years were really nothing like my kids' growing up years, and they experienced the world differently. And that's part of the fun and the thrill of watching some of these things, and also going back in the archives and seeing how all these issues are being approached and the stories that they're telling in the 90s and the early 2000s, because that was the inflection point where technology, microchips started to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And I have a story to tell you about microchips that's relevant to this conversation. And, and then the pace at which everything is changing and has changed over the last 30 years, see, it's 30, not 20, is just astonishing.
Right.
And yeah, and we have to, like, that's why we watch these things, because this is like taking our pulse, right? And The Pulse of 1998 was really interesting. I also want to say about Enemy of the State, which it was very charming in its way because there was this little rom-com element,
Yes.
that was very 90s, right? Because 90s was like the peak rom-com era. That's when all the
Oh yeah, you
great
couldn't have an action movie without some kind of romantic tension at
there
all.
has to be, it's like there has to be some sort of like little cheeky comments about like maybe having sex and the kids around and it was, and it was I just thought that whole part was hilarious because there's so many shows that I watch now and so many movies and they're 100% dark. They just don't go there. That's such a marker of the 90s, but it's kind of sweet. I appreciated it like because in the end we got our happy ending, right?
Right.
Even though this dark force is above them, watching, recording, tracking. The
Yep.
implication was, well, if you just get rid of the bad guys, just that little group of bad guys, where everything's okay. But, you and I both know that the story continued, right?
Oh boy, does it. Does it. Okay, so then and that's a really great like foray into this next one. Like, what do you think that it got right?
Well, I think it got right the long-term danger of living in a surveillance state and how much people, the awareness of it
Mm-hmm.
or the lack of awareness of it and people's willingness to accept it, because we don't think of ourselves as living in a surveillance state in the United States.
Right.
However, Britain is a surveillance state. It's one of the most
Oh yeah.
heavily surveilled civilizations on this planet. And there are a couple of shows I want to talk about, later on in the show, and we can also drop them in the show notes. Do we do show notes, Jasmin? We do show notes for
I
these?
don't know if we do.
Okay, well, if not, no worries. But I think that's what they really got right is that is they touched on, is this okay? Are
Right.
you aware that this is happening? That this technology is already in play? It's not even a question of if. And the Will Smith character he's smart, he's educated, he's living in the nation's capital, he's an attorney,
Mm-hmm.
and he has no idea that the satellite network can do what it's doing.
Right.
So if he at that time, if he doesn't know, imagine the average person, the average citizen really has no idea.
Yeah.
And I love exploring that idea of how much do we know that's accurate and how much do we not know and how much are we willing to tolerate?
Exactly. And
What about
I,
you?
I would agree. I think like of what it gets right. I said the same thing. Like to me, it gets that whole like clandestine government surveillance piece right.
Yeah.
Like I think, are they monitoring like individuals like me and you? No. But is the technology available to them to do that? Yes.
Yeah.
Would they use it if they felt they needed to? Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And for a while, I used to think like, oh, I feel like this movie kind of was the beginning of the Patriot Act, which we got the Patriot Act after 9/11
Yes.
and all. But actually, there was a law that went into place. I did some research before we started recording. It's called the Communication Assistance for Law Enforcement Act. And it was passed in 94, so 4 years before this film came out. And what this law does is that it required telecommunication companies to build systems that would allow law enforcement to conduct lawful wiretaps on digital communications networks.
And there you have it. All right. Who remembers that? Does anyone know about that?
No one talks about
that?
it. Everybody talks about the Patriot Act, but no one talks about this act.
Yeah.
And it's almost very similar to the plotline of the film. Like at the time, a lot of the critics were like, you do realize that you are building government surveillance into the nation's communication infrastructure. Like that's what's happening. And but like no one stopped it. And so
no. And that's like, those are not the sexy bills. Those are not the sexy things that people pay attention to, right? So, and politicians and legislators know that those are the ones that they can get, passed quietly, and really no one takes a lot of notice of things like that. But those have profound impacts effects on all of us because
Right.
our world is so digital. We also, could not have imagined the digital nature of everything that we do
Yeah.
now back in the late 90s and the early 2000s. That was speculative fiction at the time. It was just
Oh yeah.
impossible. Just the idea that you're carrying around a phone that's like a computer that's
Yep.
always on and always, available, and it's just in your pocket. That was just inconceivable,
Right.
at the time, right?
So
Here we are.
crazy.
Yep.
So same two questions for Minority Report. Like, at what point in rewatching Minority Report do you feel like, this is not science fiction anymore? Like, this happened.
Well, so Minority Report is only available on streamers that I do not have access to at this moment, and I subscribe to just about almost everything. So Minority Report was only available on Stars. Like, who's watching Stars? And Paramount Plus. So I did not rewatch it, but I have watched it fairly recently, and this is something I wanted to talk about because I just find this to be like alarming and fascinating. So this idea of like predicting crimes, which of course is absurd. And the science fiction element is that these precogs are able through telepathy or some kind of, precognition to predict who's going to commit a crime. Switching back to the technology part of that for just a second, there is actually there's a New York Times article last week. China is creating technology that uses predictive AI to predict who will oppose their government, so they can take action in advance. So they're trying to get their hands. The only thing that is stopping them, it's just sort of in the early stages, the only thing that is stopping them is that they can't get enough NVIDIA chips from the United States because we have a limit on how many NVIDIA chips we can ship to them, which actually the current administration is trying to loosen that. But I mean, if that doesn't sound like Minority Report and the reality of Minority Report, but instead of achieved through precogs, it's achieved through technology to predict who will say something or who will do something that the current regime of that country may not like, so they would take action beforehand. So that's a little scary because it's
That's a
actually
lot scary.
happening. It's actually
Yeah.
happening, and it's actually, is that possible? Would it be accurate? There's no way to know. But again, it's that blurring of lines from speculative fiction into the world that is being made possible by this like rapidly advancing AI technology. So, that show is so fascinating because of that what if element,
Right.
right? Jasmine, it's like what if something was in place? There was some government sanctioned, whatever
Right.
that was just part of the culture and that people accepted that this is the way the world works, that people are arrested ahead of time before they commit a crime. And then you go and you read about predictive AI and a nation state attempting to turn that into a version of that, and you're like, well, it's not science fiction anymore, is it?
Right. And that's the terrifying part. It's like,
Yeah.
they are doing these kinds of things, and there's not enough dissent for them to not do the thing.
Well, and it's happening in a country where no dissent is allowed, and that
Right.
is the whole purpose of it, is to prevent dissent and to prevent people from opposing the government. And so in the hands of a government or a regime like that, and it could be anywhere in the world, but right now it's China. They have the resources and the drive, and they themselves have their own technology that they're pursuing. But for the moment, it's not possible for them to accomplish what they want to accomplish, but it's not hard to imagine that they could. And then what?
I mean, we're talking less
Yeah.
than 30 years between that. Well, that was 2002, so less than 25 years from that film to now. And
That's right.
And like,
yeah.
Everything is quantum leaping. Like,
Yes.
it doesn't take us 20 years to make these changes anymore. Like, they happen in 3 or 4 years at this point. And I to a very similar point, not quite as serious, but like with Minority Report, the thing that I think that on the rewatch again, like
Yeah.
watching it the first time, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. It's so crazy. Like this would
Yes.
never happen.
Yeah.
On the rewatch, when he is in that mall and he
Uh-huh.
cannot get away from the advertisements,
Yep.
watching that in 2026, I was like,
Yeah.
this
Right.
is what is happening now. Like every website you go to,
Yeah.
you get followed. If
Yep.
you clicked the link 2 weeks ago, that link and that website is going to follow you to every other website that you go to.
That's right.
And it's just like,
yeah.
This is insane. Like
Mm-hmm.
walking into a place, and because you have that computer in your pocket, as soon as you cross the threshold, you've already been scanned. And so, like, someone knows that you have arrived, right? And
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, hey, do you want to buy more of this thing that you bought the last time you were here? And it's like,
Exactly. Well, do you remember those old Google glasses? And they scrapped that a few years ago, but that was the whole idea of Google glasses, is that you're seeing this customized version of the world, and that their original idea was that as you walk down a street, you would be the stores that are on the street that you're walking down, or the stores that you're walking into, would be alerted to your specific presence and feed you ads into your field of vision through these Google glasses that were customized to you. And that sounds exactly like, well, it's like a version of Blade Runner. Blade Runner was really the first science
oh, yeah.
fiction film that really used, ads to bludgeon you, with this just completely outsized, just overwhelming, vision of just being consumed by ads everywhere you go and everywhere you look. But this version of it, yes, he couldn't escape. It was everywhere. Yeah, that was, yep, that's
And
yet
Google
another
doesn't do it
case
with the
of,
glasses anymore, but they still do it. Like in my previous life, we worked with Google Ads, and they have a feature where if you are paying for ads, like you can turn on a specific feature that it will tap into someone's location. And if your business is close enough to their location, when they are searching, you come up because you are nearest to them because they have their GPS on. And to me, that was always like, this is creepy. And it's like, yes,
no,
I want that because like I want more sales. But like at
yeah,
the same time, it's like, but what happens to the people on the other end of that?
that's
Like,
right.
am I actually getting real information when I search, or am I only being fed information because of where I am?
Yeah, it's all, I think everything is really geared towards selling stuff. It's
Mhm.
just everything, the algorithm, everything that we touch and everything that we do, that's our value. Our value is that we're eyeballs that have credit cards, right?
Exactly.
And some of those themes are in these earlier films, and that,
Okay.
that little segment in Minority Report is exactly right, because, different, it's happening differently, but, we'll get there. I'm sure at some point we'll have, walls of animated,
Oh, it's
ads
coming.
that will
I'm
haunt
certain.
us and follow us no matter where we go. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I think one of the other interesting things about these two films, like on paper, they might not always feel related, but like I just feel like they are so close to each other because they're essentially telling parallel stories. I don't think they're
yeah,
telling the same story. I think that they're telling very parallel stories.
mm-hmm.
But like they have a very similar structure where we've got our main guy who essentially is okay with the system at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then something happens.
Yep.
And then he becomes the target that he
Right.
has been fighting against all this time. And
Yeah,
now he wants to bring down the system
that's
because
right.
it has affected him. And I think it's that it didn't matter to you until you were affected. And that is very, very present, especially in the US
Today. Yes.
in this day and age with the way that people vote and the
Yeah.
policies that get passed. And it's just like, I'm fine if it hurts other people.
Yep.
But when it starts to hurt me, now it's a problem. And
Yeah.
like on the one hand, I understand they're telling a story. It has to follow, a format that we can all follow. But at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like I find it so frustrating that you had to become the target in order to realize that the system is broken.
Yeah. And that's uniquely American, like you pointed out. That's American individualism is all about me, right? It's like my advancement, my privacy or no or not. how does this affect me personally? And it's easy to, to blow something off that doesn't affect you, but the moment that it does, well, then it's the world's biggest issue. But
Right.
that's
Was you ready to burn the whole system down?
that's right. That's right. No, you're absolutely right. I think that I mean, Minority Report was a lot of fun. The visuals, the way that they represented tech, like that very beginning, that sort of the way that he interacts with this like holographic, command center is really fascinating and so well done. And it's also for both of these movies, this is really like peak Tom Cruise era and peak Will Smith era. So let's
Yeah.
acknowledge that,
Yeah.
right? They've both gone on to do many, many things, but in different ways. Those were the peak of their action, actor, part of their career where
Oh, yeah.
they're right at that kind of sweet spot age-wise and experience-wise to lead, movies of that caliber. And they were both bangers. But I think if I had to, at the end of the day, if I had to rewatch again, because I probably will, it would be Minority Report, because there are just elements of that are, because it's a darker film. There's no little rom-com element. It was, I would point out, post Matrix,
Yeah.
and you can see the DNA of Matrix.
Yep.
I'm sorry, in that film and just about every kind of, science fiction film that came after it. So that every time I see those early 2000s films, I see a little thread from the Matrix, and things really got dark after that because the Matrix is a very dark film. And some of that rom-com, sweet, relationship type element seemed to kind of fade out of those movies of that nature.
Oh,
And
yeah, because after
yeah,
the like big action films of like the late 90s, early 2000s, we went straight from big action set pieces to dystopia.
yep,
It was a
straight
very
up.
dark transition into just
But
let's just do dystopian stuff. And everybody was like,
right.
wait, what?
But think of what was happening in the world. 9/11 happened, right?
Mhm.
And I think that really that just impacted people so deeply, and the world felt more threatening after that. And how do we explore the things on our mind? It's through pop culture and through films and television, and you can immediately see that reflected in the films that came after that, because that the whole country was united in this just spasm of grief and pain. And I think that you can see that in this kind of more dystopian outlook, and people were not feeling optimistic for a long time after that. And you can see it in these some of these films. The goofy sweetness of the 90s was really, in the rearview mirror at that point.
Yeah, I would say that sentiment, the rom-com sentiment, and then vehicles are the only thing that make Enemy of the State feel outdated.
Yeah, the vehicles always. Yeah.
Watching Enemy of the State now, like, it still feels like they could
Yeah.
have made this movie this year and it would
Yeah.
still be relevant.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that, again, the rewatch is just so much more insightful with Minority Report, the stripping of color from this future, because it's set in 2054. So still got a ways to go before we get to that point.
Yeah.
I don't know why people are so obsessed with flying cars. Like, we're never going to get the flying cars. Like, that's a 3000 thing. That's not going to happen in the twos. Other than the flying cars and like the jetpacks and that kind of stuff.
So no flying jetpacks? Is that what you're saying? No flying jetpacks?
No flying jetpacks. But I think like the stripping back of color, and it's something because the space that I used to be in, we worked in interiors and selling furniture and that kind of thing. So like interior colors and watching the color palettes shift when I spent 10 years in that industry, from deep browns, dark woods, all of that thing, and everything shifted to gray and white. Everything in the commercial furniture industry at least, shifted to this gray white vibe. And then you started to see that follow with house interiors and residential spaces. And you start to see it in places like McDonald's. Remember, like old school McDonald's used to have this bright red and yellow exterior with like the awning and like the playground outside. And now it's very normal. And so I think like that is an interesting piece that they got right. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why is the future so bleak in the sense of like color draining bleak,
Yeah,
not
that's just
necessarily like
that's a signifier, isn't it? It's just like such a great visual signifier of mood and ambiance, and optimism versus pessimism is that stripped out, washed out color palette, and that's a really good point. I actually, completely unrelated to our topic, I saw a really great film recently called Silent Friend, and it is not science fiction, but it has an little element of like time jumping, and it just I think it's a German film, very indie if you can find it, but they use these really distinct color palettes in three different time periods that they go back and forth between really effectively between the 1970s and, like, I want to say the early part of the 19th century, and then the 1990s. And it was beautifully done. And that color palette shift was essential to just changing that vibe and that point of view. And as it made it a little easier to track.
yeah,
But I love that they did such a good job of that in Minority Report. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so if these films were re-released today,
Yep.
which do you think would have a bigger impact now?
Ooh. Hmm. Re-release, like, as they are, no changes, not a remake, just
Yeah, like let's just
re-release.
say it's not a remake, but like it's the first time that this film has come out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think I'm always going to lean a little more toward Minority Report because I just enjoy that film a little bit more. So I think that sort of has a little more of that blockbuster zhuzh, with Cruise and Spielberg and some of those really far out sci-fi elements. So I think that might have a little bit bigger impact, but I'm not so sure you think that. What do you think?
I mean, I think I would agree because I
Oh,
think
okay.
in today's standards,
Uh-huh.
Enemy of the State would be outdated.
Mm.
Like I think we
Yeah.
have surpassed the point where
Hmm.
anyone would be surprised at the events that are happening in Enemy of the State,
That's right.
which it seems crazy to say that because I remember being so like fascinated by that film when it first came out in
Hmm.
98.
Yeah.
And now it's just kind of like all of this is old hat,
Yeah.
you know? Like
Yep.
that, yeah, so I think Minority Report would definitely kind of stick in the craw a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's still futuristic,
yeah,
and Enemy of the State is not futuristic anymore, but it's a great moment in time that's very revealing and really chronicles everything that came after it so accurately.
mhm,
So it's an important moment, in how pop culture reflects the surveillance state.
yeah, very true. And
Yeah.
I think it's one film we didn't talk about, but Eagle Eye came out after Minority Report.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And to me, Eagle Eye actually fits in between these. Like it would be like Enemy of the State,
Hmm.
and then we evolved to Eagle Eye, and then we evolved to Minority Report.
Yeah.
Because Eagle Eye, I hadn't seen that one in a while, and I ended up rewatching that one as well. But like
Hmm.
Eagle Eye really dips into AI and what happens if AI
Hmm.
becomes like fully actualized and
Yes.
humans are just not a part of the decision making process at all anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and that one is very like right now, I feel.
Yes. Oh, I read the war, the Ukraine-Russia war is like a it's like an experimental, it's like a petri dish right now of AI and human intervention in wartime decisions about who gets killed and how and when. The drones that Ukraine has been building, because their drone technology is just like exploding just out of necessity. They're just, that's really all that they have. But because, necessity is the mother of invention, they've created these autonomous drones. And there are all of these ethical questions and moral questions that are coming up around this, where people are, people who follow, moral philosophers, for example, are really alarmed that this technology is being created that make the decision about killing human beings with no human decision making behind it.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, that is real and it's happening right now. And these are in use on the battlefield. And these people are desperate. And, if I were in their shoes, would I be creating and using this? I don't know. Maybe, this is like an
Yeah.
existential threat to their country and their sovereignty. And it's hard to predict like how these things, but are going to be used. But once the cat is out of the bag,
it ain't going back in.
then it's not going back in. It's available to everybody for nefarious purposes, for altruistic purposes. But that's the big worry, right? Is what is this going to be used for? May I bring up a TV show that's kind of captured my attention? That's totally related to what we're talking about today. So there's a BBC show called The Capture. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's available on Peacock. I just discovered it a few weeks ago, about a month ago. There are 2 full seasons available on Peacock. So the first season was 2019. And then I think 2022, season 2 came out, like post-pandemic. So there was a big big gap in between seasons 1 and 2. And then the 3rd season just dropped yesterday on Peacock. And the entire season is about British surveillance and this new ability to create deep fake videos and images that are completely impossible to detect, that are being used for all kinds of terrible things. And the British government is using this deepfake technology to create false video of perpetrators that they don't have enough evidence to arrest. So it creates false evidence so they can get them and put them away. And it's called correction. That's what the show calls this like extreme deepfake technology. And Holliday Grainger is the star. So if you've ever seen the CB Strike series, she's a British actress. She's really good. She's the star of it. And a bunch of other very familiar faces from like Game of Thrones and other shows. And it is fantastic. It is super fast paced. It is, it's happening right now. So they really have captured like exactly what's going on with deepfake technology. And I just highly recommend it. The Capture on Peacock. Just go watch it. Go watch it. There's so I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, and there's the world's leading expert on deepfake technology is at UC Berkeley. And I read an interview with him last week, and people have been coming to him to help figure out like in specific cases, is this video deep faked or is it real? And he, in this article I read, he said, I'm actually depressed because I can no longer trust my visual field, because just in the last year, deep fake technology has gotten so advanced that I can't tell the difference anymore. Like, it's impossible to know. And so if I can't tell, no one can tell. And what does this mean for us, And this BBC series, The Capture, really, really delves into what happens, again, like these movies that we've been talking about today, like what happens when a government, either gets a hold of this technology or creates it for themselves, and they have the ability to use that for any purpose they want. What does that mean for us when we're helpless? We're helpless. And, we like to think of ourselves as the good guys, right? Western culture. And it's really fascinating to have this examined within the context of, British police and investigators and MI5 and MI6. So anyway, it's a real deep dive into deepfake technology. Check it out.
That's interesting. That's kind of the plot of the movie on Prime, G20, that stars Viola Davis, that she's the president of the United States. and they go to a G20 conference, and then the conference gets hijacked, but the hijackers record all of these state leaders at the G20 saying that specific sequence of letters that lets you then go back in and make every sound in the language. And so they hijacked the G20 so that they could deep fake the entire world into thinking that, oh, all of these people that you put your trust in, like they're the ones that are sitting here plotting against you.
Yes. Right.
And
Yeah, exactly.
it was really, really interesting.
Yep. No, this is why, that's why it is so interesting, because it is now possible, it's happening, and we have to be vigilant. It's a good reminder too, like on a somewhat serious note, like, we watch these things because they're fascinating. It's great to think about these, big issues and sort of, how is this evolving and how is this going to affect us in the next, 5 years and 10 years? And it's moving so rapidly, but it's also a good reminder that we really do need to be vigilant. We need to know about the telecom acts, to your earlier reference, and pay attention to, what's happening, because, these are fun ideas to kind of knock around, when we're having our beer and watching our TV shows, but these things are happening in real time, and we're here in the San Francisco Bay Area. We're really close to where this is all happening.
Oh, yeah.
These people are like walking around downtown every day, and it's a tech bro world that we're living in San Francisco, and it really is. It's become quite a cold place in many ways, because that culture it's not doesn't seem to be really oriented toward doing good things in the world. It's enrichment and getting our stock options, and if the AI runs amok, at least I got a lot of stock options from.
It all goes back to, that's someone else's problem. That's not actually affecting
me. That's exactly right.
They're not building the data centers in their neighborhoods.
Yes, and they always go to, underserved, poor neighborhoods that don't have a lot of clout politically to build those data centers, and we all know it. So, it's coming for us. It is indeed.
It's tough out there. And it's like they say, like, if you are not paying for the service, you are the product. Yeah. And that's something that I like really, especially as I continue to get older, it's kind of like, is this really, like, do I want to sign up for this sweepstakes? Like, probably not. Like, what information are you asking me for? How are you going to use it? Like, do I actually read terms of service? No, but I don't always just click the little box. Like, it's like I'm trying to get better about, what are you actually doing with my information?
Yeah. So, okay. So tell me, do you feel more paranoid now that we've talked about surveillance and deep fake technology for an hour?
No, I think because we know that it's there. Yeah. And I think it's one of those things where it's just like, at this point, there's nothing that we can do, like, to stop the machine. So it's just I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And then it makes me more selective. So am I as present online as I used to be? No. But I'm not there. It's just like, I don't say yes to everything the way that I used to. And I think that's the best way that I can go about these things. It's just like, the older you get, the more discerning you become. And you decide for yourself, like, this is not something that I really want to give myself to. That's
right. Yeah. And then, in the meantime, I'm really excited to see how, the filmmakers and the show creators that I love tackle this issue and continue to explore this and where this is all going to go, because it's just, we're living in such a fascinating time, just standing back from it for a second. We get to witness things that were unthinkable 30, 40 years ago, even 20 years ago. And we're seeing them happen in front of us now. So I think it's going to be, there are so many more shows we didn't even have a chance to touch on that really tackle this, that it's going to be fun. We should come back to this topic someday. We'll do a part 2 when we have a few more shows and movies that we can go back to and look at and see, what's emerging on this theme.
Yeah, because I would love to see, like, a happy medium. not quite as far into the future as Minority Report or Blade Runner 2049, but like something a step above Minority
Yeah.
Report. What does that look like? Because a lot of times I feel, especially nowadays, I feel like everybody goes straight to the doom and gloom. Like
Yeah.
they pick things up after we've already had the nuclear fallout, and I'm like, well, what happens before that? Like,
Yes, right.
What
Yeah.
what happens right before we
Yes.
have that trigger point? Like that, those are the stories that I think are really telling of what's happening right now, but also
Right.
like how we navigate that as humanity.
That's right. Yep. It all leads back to Skynet. That's what I say that all the time.
That's exactly the truth. I tell people that
so
all the
true.
time.
It's so true. It's
We've known all of this since 1984 and we ignore it. Like, what is wrong with us?
Every time something happens, I'm like, Skynet, and everybody in my house goes, but I'm right.
Yeah. Okay, so last question is,
Yeah.
oh wait, where's my last question? Okay, what do you think that these films are asking of the audience?
Pay attention.
Ooh, yeah.
Pay attention. Do not let, don't be the frog in the water, the slowly boiling water. Pay attention to the place that this has in your life and your government and your civic world, What about you? What do you think?
I think they're asking us how much we're willing to sacrifice in order to feel safe.
Yes, that's right, because it's all in the name of national security, isn't it? In our country and other countries too. That's right. Okay. Those are two good takeaways. I like it.
I love it. I love this topic. I think it's fascinating. I've been loving this genre for a really long time, but like living it is a very different experience than watching it in the movies. And if you had asked me 20 years ago if we would be living like this, I'd be like, I think Skynet could still happen, but not in my lifetime. And now it's very much like, well, damn. Like,
uh-oh, wait,
yeah,
maybe
exactly.
it is possible. Yeah, it's all roads lead to Skynet. So yeah,
awesome.
This has been great. Jasmin, thank you
well,
for
let
inviting
people
me
know,
on the
like, where
show.
can they find you if they want to keep chatting with you, they want to engage with you, where can they find you online?
I am not online.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go. They're just gonna have to wait for me to pop back onto your podcast. So yeah.
Unfortunately, we are online, so you can find us everywhere.
I know. You are.
Geeks Unleashed, wherever you get, like, we're Geeks Unleashed YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of those places. So come back, come hang out with us a little bit more. Next week we are back. Mark is going to be back next week. We've got a triple feature we're doing next week. It's going to be a series of Norwegian films. The first one is called Reprise. Second one is called Oslo, August 31st. And the third one is called The Worst Person in the World.
One of my favorites.
Really?
I love Worst Person in the World. So great.
Well, then next week's episode is definitely
watch.
going to be for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So be sure to tune back in. And thank you for coming on. Oh my gosh, it was so great catching up, like having this conversation. As soon as we started chatting about what we wanted to talk about, I was like, this is the topic.
This is going to be fun. Thank you for letting me hang out, Jasmin. It was so much fun. I loved it.
It was awesome. If you want, you can hang out just a few more minutes. I'm going to close us out and then again pop back on. But for everyone else watching, thank you again for watching, listening to how you engage with Geeks Unleashed, and we will see you next time. Good journey.